Welcome back, everybody. Here we are for another chess game, and this one features, again, it's another quick one, but this one features a couple different ideas that I may not have been focusing on as much in a couple of the earlier videos. You know, a lot of those have been combination squares and this and that, and weakened squares, and this one, a couple of different things that I don't think I get to take advantage of too often. So there's a couple of weird moves going on, and a couple of things I'm like, hey, that was actually really cool. I don't think I would have seen that if I played it now, let alone how did I do that a month ago. So anyway, it starts off a little normal, but a little different at the same time. I haven't quite ever seen this. Usually when I try to play French, they always just double up. This guy didn't, so I'm thinking, okay, he's blocking off his light square bishop, and I guess we'll see where it goes from there. French has become my favorite defense recently, so I'm going to be playing a lot of that, unfortunately, sorry. And he jumps out with the horse, which if you can see, you can kind of look at the database for this website, and different moves have different win ratios, you know, white, draw, black, white, draw, black. Knight to c3, on this website at least, only found 9 games of it, and not a very good ratio for winning the games when you do that. So obviously I don't see this information during the course of the game or anything like that. I only see this after the fact, but apparently that's quite the losing move, but that's what he does, and I mean, I guess normally maybe it seems okay. By not having this pawn double pushed, it does leave me the opportunity to push in there and chase him away. So before I'm able to take advantage of that square by him not occupying it, I want to get this pin out here first. Who knows what he's going to do? Maybe he develops the bishop, maybe he develops the horse or something like that. And then it gives me the one turn threat that I need to win this horse because it can't move anywhere. So normally it's maybe a little weird. Normally I might like to push that guy up there first, or usually, you know, horses before bishops is kind of the standard sort of expectation or train of thought for developing pieces. But I wanted to see if there's a chance I could capitalize on this anomaly. That's not quite the right word. Just something that caught my eye, I suppose, while I have the opportunity to do so. So he also just taking it, which is totally fine because I can just recapture and keep my threat of the pin slash fork. That's not a fork. I guess really just the pin. But now he takes the turn to defend his horse from it, remove the pin at the same time, and now he's throwing a punch at my pawn, which no longer has his buddy here to defend him. So a couple of different ways I can do that. I can bring the horse, I can bring the bishop. I mean, I guess technically the queen is on there, but I want my queen to be doing more important things than sitting at home base guarding a pawn. So unfortunately, while the horse is probably the right move, for some reason, and I couldn't tell you why, I really couldn't tell you why, I decided to use the bishop. I mean, I guess I thought, yeah, you develop a piece, this guy will develop at some point anyway on his own, I don't know. Maybe I was thinking I wanted to queenside castle this game for some reason. Maybe that's just the way I was thinking. I don't actually know, because it's kind of ugly. Now I'm just basically a Super Saiyan pawn right here in the middle. Not really doing a whole lot. He's kind of blocked off, and I can't move him anywhere else because then there's pressure on this guy. So probably not ideal. That's probably a mistake, but whatever, that's what I ended up doing. So he decides now to attack my bishop in a very awkward way. He puts his knight in a really bad spot because they work much better in the middle, where they have multiple options to jump to when they're on such a square in the middle of the field. So they have, you know, within these middle squares, they got lots of options. On the side, not so much. It's just not really ideal for where the horses can go. It limits their movement. It prevents them from making a more major impact. So kind of a strange way to go about attacking my bishop as opposed to throwing a pawn at me. I mean, honestly, maybe even running back would be better than putting him on the side. Obviously, you can't throw him there, but maybe you just wait and do that later? I don't know. It seems slightly interesting. Anyway, I don't want to trade because that'll give him the tempo of moving his queen up for free, and I won't really have anything to gain for it other than his knight is kind of wasting a little bit of time, but he gains a little bit of time with the queen tempo as well. So I don't really want to reward that. I probably could maybe defend with the queen, maybe defend with the horse, maybe just run the bishop back. But I decided to do something even more weird and crazy. Apparently this bishop move wasn't awkward enough. I'm gonna thrust the a-pawn up there. Why not? If he wants to take, I recapture with the pawn, and now his knight is hanging from my rook. So it made sense to me. It seems pretty cool. It seems innovative enough, I guess. Just maybe a little bit different, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So he decides to continue his pressure on this bishop, and he's like, no, we're not having this party. This is not going on. It also opens up a defender onto the horse. So now I have no choice. I am going to run the bishop away, and that's fine. I've got these nice little temple guardians here that are covering up the middle of these open files, open up the middle of the field, or covering up this open space in front of my king. Just gives them lots of mobility and lots of lines to look at. So I like these little palace guards right here as they currently stand. And now I'll proceed to start moving out my horses, castle, and see what we can do from there. So he just keeps going crazy with pawns. I've got these nice guys in a team, and I'm going to start moving out horses and things like that, whereas he hasn't even moved half of his board. This knight has jumped around a couple of times, and it's still in a bad spot, and he's still making pawn moves. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, at some point I'm going to be able to find something to capitalize on. I just don't know what yet. So because of this, yes, of course I could take, and then that would be advantageous. I'm trading an A pawn for a C pawn at that point, which would be pretty cool, but I also figure, I guess if he just takes, I can take back with the rook anytime I want and then put pressure on the knight. And I want to start getting these pieces out here while I have time, so it's probably not even remotely a bad thing to take it. I just didn't do it yet. I ignored it for now. Let's get the horse out here. Let's get these pieces out here. Start playing the game while he's playing pawns. He develops the rook to get additional support on it, I suppose. Not like he needs it. He has two pieces already supporting this guy. Maybe he doesn't want to make awkward pawn over here. Well, it's not awkward. It's still going to be connected. So I guess he'd rather have a rook out really early on, even though I'd be able to attack it, I suppose. So I decide to take it now and give him a couple different ways where he wants to go about it. He decides to take it with the pawn anyway, so I'm not sure what the point of that rook move was, because now he's staring off into a brick wall, closed file. But I guess that's alright. I guess. He's just wasting lots of time, so none of these guys have really moved. That doesn't count. It's looking okay. I've definitely got the lead in space and time. I'm one move away from castling, one move away from being basically fully developed, though I wouldn't want to do it right away right now. It's something on my mind. So I do bring... sorry. See, at the start of the video when I said I'm doing different things, this is the turn where I can finally look at that. Now that this pawn is gone, like I mentioned a couple turns ago, it does open up an attack against this knight who's kind of hanging out here on the beach vacation, doing absolutely nothing, just sitting and watching everything else go by. He's got the one defender of the queen, so something I'm not usually too keen on or don't notice it as much, I don't think, is the concept of deflection. Yes, it's a defended piece, but is there something I can do about this defender and get rid of it or move it, and then all of a sudden this piece is free? So what I do see is a nice little combination square where I can move the bishop out here and attack said queen, and maybe he moves the horse, but I could trade, and maybe he takes it with the queen, opening up the chance for a free piece. You know, maybe he blocks the bishop out there and then takes with the queen, opens up for a free piece. It doesn't necessarily have to work, because even if we do trade, you know, he pulls the horse out there and the queen is still defending it, and that's fine. It's not necessarily going to work. He could even just push the pawn. But it's a concept that has the chance to work. So I'm going to go with it and see how he decides to respond. He ends up choosing the pawn. It's probably not the better way to go. I think bishop is probably the better way, because now he's weakening his kingside area a little bit. I still have my dark square bishop and my queen to take advantage of this push piece. It's a little bit weaker over here, and he doesn't have his e-file pawn to help compensate for some of these now potentially weaker squares as he continues to push this guy up. So it's all fine and dandy by me. I'm not upset about that whatsoever. I got some sort of benefit after all. And now this pawn, I guess, is pinned, which is irrelevant. It is also blocking this knight in, so a couple of very minor things that aren't immediately great, but will eventually be beneficial. And then at this point, now I'm just like, what the hell is this? Like, he is clearly playing a different game than I am playing. He's doing nothing but pawn moves, and I'm thinking, okay, at some point I need to get my pieces activated so I can actually do something with this, because I know in my head, like, he's wasting tons of time, he's making tons of bad decisions with his pawns, but I just don't know what I can do about it yet. So I do see that, especially when it's the king side pawns in front of your king, the more they move, the weaker and more easier to attack he gets. Obviously, I've got this potential open file here. I've got this potential opening here with the bishop, though I don't think I identify this just yet. I think my immediate concern was move the bishop away, no big deal, and he just continues his Rambo attack on my little temple guardians over here. So I know from past experience, when people start thrusting all these pawns forward at your bishop and knight that are hanging out here, one more square, my bishop is going to run out of real estate. So a good way to get around that is a combination of, or not a combination, I'm moving one of your pawns just one little square. It gives me a place to run away should he continue his assault. It also doubles as a way to stop his bishops from coming in and pinning knights against queens, or etc. And then lastly, for very far off in the distance of a game after castling, it gives me a flight square. So there's three tiny little benefits that a move like this gives me should he want to continue to do such a thing, and usually it's enough where they'll stop entirely. Now obviously, like I mentioned on the previous turn, he's made some very significant openings toward his king that I can absolutely take advantage of. I just don't think I saw it yet because of the immediate concept of let's just move my bishop away and okay fine, I'll make this flight square for it. But I didn't have to just yet. I just didn't quite see it at the time. So I do it now, and usually, like I said, that's enough for people to stop pushing, but not this guy. Why would he do that? That's all he's done, has been push his pawns all day long. But this is where now I do see it. Now I think, okay, I've got at least a couple pieces out there. What am I really waiting for? He's made an infinite number of weak squares around his king, and if I do start to attack on these dark squares that he is now weakened completely, his horse can't get in here, this bishop can't get in here, this bishop would need a couple of turns to get in there, the queen can't immediately get there, the king's not really got a whole lot of places he can go because my queen can easily take advantage of it. So I'm realizing that this might not really get far enough in the game for me to need to take advantage of these small advantages. I might just be able to end it a little bit quicker. He's only going to have one option when I put him in check, and that's moving his king down. So now it's a question of how do I take advantage from here? Obviously you want to get a rook or a queen on this open file because his king is totally blocked off, and there's not going to be a whole lot that can get in the way. The knight can't make a difference, the bishop can't get a difference, the queen can't really make any difference. This guy sucks, this guy's irrelevant. And obviously I am still being attacked at this point, but I'm thinking now I can use that to my advantage. If I want to bring my queen out first, he's got one move to save from checkmate, but then I can't take it. I can't take it because there's going to be no protection for the queen, so he would just recapture. So I feel like I want to do something to secure this square first. I can play the quietest little move of pushing this pawn out here, which is not going to look like, well, maybe it's not going to look like anything, but that'll be supporting this square, and maybe it'll tempt him to take in this free bishop because it's just hanging out. And that would just be a really good trick, I think, a really nice ploy. I'm allowing, I don't know what the term is for that sort of tactic. I guess it's just ignoring a possible threat because I have a way bigger one, I suppose. I'm sort of baiting it. It's poison. It's a poison bishop. There we go. That's one of the terms I'm looking for. And now at this point, it's basically about to be checkmate unless he does something. I think if he moves the queen, that will give him a square for his king to run away to. But obviously he can't move the queen too far because then I take this guy. So yeah, I think that might not really honestly be all he can do. Maybe nope, he can't pull that guy anywhere. Maybe throw the light square bishop out, I suppose. Moving one of these two guys is basically all he can do at this point. He decides to attack this bishop as opposed to taking the poison one. He just wants to chase this guy away, I suppose. But that's going to be all she wrote for him. Check and mate. Queen is guarding this square, bishop is guarding that square. Well, really, queen's guarding everything, and then he's just kind of suffocated in. So just a good example of trying to take advantage of some deflection once I had a couple of openings. And then really he just played pawn rush like they were zerglings, and finally was able to see some way to take advantage with, I didn't need too much development, but it was just enough development where I could make something happen with it. So certainly not an ideal gamer player, but just things that I've been trying to highlight and work on, and as I continue to win a couple of these games, eventually we're going to get to much more even matches where things won't always just work out so well. So Let's take a look now at what the computer wants to think. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Or is that what I wanted? Hold on a second. Yeah, I do want that turned on. Okay, anyway. So let's go back and take a look at what the computer thinks as far as situations as they arose. As per normal. Seems like a decent, or normal enough move, just something I haven't really seen before in the past. And despite the fact that this move, like we identified earlier, is kind of a losing move on this website, I guess it's only 9 games, so it can't be that terrible. And these are all highly rated situations or players that it's taking the 9 games from. So I'm sure it's fine in the long run, but maybe just not with us. So takes, no big deal. Nothing major changing yet. No huge differences. Yeah, it certainly wants me to use the knight instead. Much bigger arrow. The bishop isn't even considered an option. I don't know why I thought that. A little bit of a mistake, but that's fine. See here, he wants to push to prevent me from pushing up in here, and I guess that's fine. Plus, it would really stick my bishop if I'm not able to move this pawn at all. So, game wants me to retreat. It doesn't even suggest my A pawn, but I was actually really proud of this move. I think it's, I mean, not genius, but I think it's fantastic. I love everything that it does. It gives me a possible opportunity to eventually take the horse. I want some sort of advantage for him doing a stupid move to put him on the side like that. So I think it's great. I love it. I would do it again if I ever thought of it again. So even if the computer doesn't quite fully agree, but that's fine. He continues to push up again. No major crimes or anything just yet. Still likes me a little bit, but fruit fly missed. I did. Oh, hold on, second try, got it. Haha, sucker's dead. Just run the bishop away, no big deal. And here we go. He continues to play Pawn Wars, and it wants me to take now, which, well, let's just see why. Why does it want me to take now? I guess it gives me the advantage of now he's got this isolated queen pawn for the loss of my A pawn, which I suppose is advantageous, but I'm not sure there's any major tactics just yet. Like, I suppose queen could double up on this guy, and that might be good. Actually, I suppose, okay, I could see how that might work. Let's say I move queen over here, and then he just does a quiet move with his horse. That'll allow me to take with my bishop, and then he wouldn't be able to trade back, because queen would then be forking with check, and I'd have 2 pieces on this knight, and he wouldn't. So I guess I could see how this might be a move. Throwing the knight out here to attack the pawn, but then he would just push, so I'm not sure how that helps me, per se. I guess I just get to play more offensive. Well, that's true. He doesn't have pawns on these 2 diagonals, so a horse right up here would be pretty tough to get rid of. Granted, I don't have an easy way to get my pawns over here to defend it, but maybe eventually it'd be a good little outpost for the knight. So anyway, I think the eval at this point isn't that there's ways to win material. I think it's more of just he's wasted so much time that I have the -2 by position, I think is really what he's looking at with that. So anyway, that is not what I did. I threw the horse out here to develop some pieces. He wastes more time just moving the rook over. So again, I don't think it's material benefit that it's giving me this better score. I think it's just the fact that he's wasting so much time. But at this point, I do finally now take it. He does take it with the pawn. And well, that's interesting. It wants me to put the bishop here, attacking the, quote-unquote pinning the pawn, but I like where I went with it too. It gives me an opportunity to win the horse. Castling is good because of this open file and maybe putting on some pressure. Or you could just immediately do that with the queen, and then I have a discovered check with the bishop to possibly win the queen. I mean, I guess not. He would just block. He's got 2 minor pieces that can both sit there, so I think they're empty threats, but possibly they're getting somewhere. So I still like my move of going over here, attempting to deflect the queen. Yeah, like I said, it's got the biggest arrow with bishop. I think that is the better play, but he chose pawn. Wow, it even thinks I could go here first. Why would queen want to go here first? I don't know. I don't want to go too far and just make too many moves and get just way out of line. That'd be crazy, because obviously the computer sees something that I don't. Or maybe, again, it's just calculating position. So Anyway, I retreat, which is fine and handy dandy. He goes at me so hard. Ooh, but this is interesting. This is one that I saw while I was putting the moves on the board while prepping the video, but I couldn't figure out why. So if we take, okay, he probably takes, but then my bishop is still blocked. I still can't take it because the queen is guarding it, or could I? I mean, then I guess I get to take his horse, but now I've lost 2 pieces for 2 pawns and a horse, so I'm not sure I was fully following it yet. Actually, maybe if I take, let's just say he takes, maybe now I can bring my queen out here for check with this, and there wouldn't be anything he could do. He'd have to move forward here, and then, actually, okay, that might be it. So let's just say if he took, yeah, it's queen going over here, and now it's blocking the bishop's defense of this square, to which now I could take it with either one. Would I rather take with bishop, or rather take with the queen? I don't know, one of those. I would think bishop, because then I'm going to win the queen for free. Oh no, because he can still guard it. But regardless, that's what the case was. I definitely did not see that move, so that was very, very cool. A lot of spicy action to be had from there. Oops. Oops. So if he went there, go with queen. This doesn't necessarily work out as well. Yeah, because now I can just take it with support, as opposed to if the bishop was here and queen was here. I can't just keep taking. Oh, this is even checkmate in 3. That's cool. He's forced to go here because everything else is blocked off. That's curious. Bring bishop over here, but he's able to take it, is he not? But it likes that. Oh, okay, that's so cool. Because the bishop is taking all those squares and that's taking all those squares. Okay. Anyway, that's really cool. Sorry, now we got really far off track, but that was a significant and abnormal move to think of, sacrificing the knight here. But that would be one way to take advantage of all the space and weaknesses he would have made by basically removing all of his pawns and not even playing with any pieces whatsoever. So that's cool. Definitely a type of move I would never have seen. It was a previous video, 1 or 2 videos ago, it was a similar kind of case. I never looked at taking a pawn with a minor piece because it was defended by another pawn. And so that generally just shuts my brain off of even considering that to be a possibility. So very cool. Once again, something that I need to keep an eye on and try and do from there. So continue to run away, and yep, so just like we eventually ended up doing, capitalizing on the dark squares with the bishop. I could have done it now, but in my haste I didn't yet. Evaluation drops because now he has a turn to take advantage of do something. I love how it says run the king away. That's funny. Just move the king. You're that screwed. And the further he keeps pushing, the further I'm able to take advantage of it. And obviously that was... It wants me to move the queen first, not the pawn at all. Huh, let's see why. Okay, it just basically wants me to reverse the order. But wouldn't he be able to do something about it? Couldn't he... Okay, let's just say he moves... I mean, I guess I'm still taking significant material, but it's not checkmate now. Oh, now I can win this guy, now that we finally blocked that off. So that's cool. But it's not checkmate. I think moving the pawn was better. I think what I was better... Okay, so this forces my... Well, let's see. Obviously it can't be better because there must be something he can do about it. So queen still needs to defend this piece, but needs to get out of the way. This is no longer a major because he gets to run, and now I win nothing for it. So I guess the difference is moving the queen first before the pawn isn't necessarily checkmate, but it's gonna be winning something. Whereas my little move is potentially checkmate, but also potentially not really that fantastic. So, huh. It just made it look nice and tempting with the poisoned bishop over there for him to grab. But anyway, guys, that's long enough for a simplistic game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you're thinking, if you like the new way of doing the analysis at the end, or if you prefer the old way of doing the analysis during the moves. And just let me know any thoughts. If there's something else you want to see, if you want me to play certain things. I'm trying to eventually get up here. How many more games? You know, let's just take a look. I've got... What game was that? This one was this guy. Okay, so after this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 more games that I had marked that I wanted to upload, or sorry, marked that I wanted to review, that I'm currently looking at. So hopefully as we progress through these 5 next ones, there's going to be something worth looking at. And then maybe we'll get to some much more intricate or intense, closer matches somewhere in here. So anyway, guys, that'll do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Just let me know your thoughts. The last few videos have had very few comments, whereas the first few had a lot. So it's always much more exciting to see what it is you're looking at, what it is you're thinking of, and hearing some of that feedback. So hopefully you guys have a good week, and I'll catch you guys soon. Take it easy, everybody. Catch you later. Peace.